people a brain dump is the easiest way for them to get mental rest. They need to put all those thoughts out on a notepad or something before they go to bed, empty out their brain to be able to go into deeper sleep. Spiritual rest really looks at the core of it, regardless of anyone's faith-based system. Everybody needs spiritual rest because you have a mind, body, and a spirit. And so spiritual rest at the core has to do with purpose, belonging, a sense of giving back to the greater good, being part of something bigger than yourself. So that includes things like the good feeling you get when you do good. So volunteerism. It can include things that are related to spiritual practices as well, church services or prayer and those types of things. But regardless, everyone has this need for belonging and purpose.
Visit faithandfreedom.tv and download the Faith and Freedom TV app today. But Faith and Freedom TV fights back with truth. Our bold content, news, shows, Bible teachings, worship, and films shines with biblical conviction and patriotic courage, free from globalist lies. We empower Christian patriot creators to share faith and liberty. Access thousands of videos on Roku, FireTV, Apple TV, Android, and iOS. Join the battle at faithandfreedom.tv.
Core of it is that sleep and rest are not the same thing. Okay. I think we use the two terms interchangeably, incorrectly. And in doing so, we lump all of our restorative practices into cessation activities, stopping. I really got to a place where I knew that conventional medicine hadn't taught me what was needed to be sustainable in the career. It gave me a lot of great information about treating patients, but not how to actually care for myself and remain in the profession.
Hey, this is Rob Renee with the I Am Pain Free podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm super excited about our next guest. We have Saundra Dalton-Smith with us today, and we're going to have a blast talking about the things that she's helping people with in a mighty way. So welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. Just when I was reading your bio and history about you, just is super exciting, right? It's very relevant to what people need in the world today. If you don't mind, why don't we start off with just like telling us your story? How did you get to doing what you are doing today? I find it fascinating how people have their stories evolved to get them to doing the thing that they're passionate about today.
Yeah, so I'm an internal medicine physician by trade. I've been in clinical practice now for over 20 or so years, but about 5 years into clinical practice, I burned out. And I had no desire to stop practicing. I wanted to really to determine how do I stay sustainable in a very high stress, high energy job. And that led me to the research that I spend a lot of my time focusing on now and into the type of work that I do now in workplace well-being consulting.
That's so neat. So what got you interested in becoming a physician, right? So go back in your history, give us a little bit background of yourself.
I don't recall ever wanting to do anything else.
Really?
I've always been the person who was just fascinated by science and research. My first research job was in a lab at the University of Georgia, where I grew up in Athens, Georgia at 16. I needed a summer job, and I just went to the university and said, hey, you have anything I can do? And surprisingly, they were like, okay, sure. So that's how I started. I've always just had this mindset of there's lots of information, and if we just ask the right questions, then we can have deeper level of wisdom. And there's this game that came out when I was a kid called Operation. I think I absolutely fell in love with that concept of all the parts of the body, and it just escalated from there.
Yeah, is that the one where if you shake and you hit the sides and it buzzes? I love that game, but I'm not very good at it. My hands naturally shake.
I was not either, so I'm not a surgeon. I went into internal medicine.
See, you found your passion, right? You know what you're really good at, so that's exciting. So I also find it fascinating that you went as a 16-year-old and said, hey, I need a job, and what can you do for me? What was some of the first things they had you do? way
Yeah, it
back
was
then.
really interesting. I think I was such an oddity to them and my boldness, I think, just in how I showed up and presented it. I ended up, my very first job was inside of a research facility where they were doing live animal research. Now, I know that's
Wow.
not kosher nowadays, but
Right,
this is
right.
many moons ago before all of those things. And
The
the animals
protesters
weren't
weren't knocking down your doors back then?
no, nobody was knocking on the door, and the animals weren't harmed. Actually, there was great care taken in caring for the animals, but it was surgery based research that was being done now that is translated into all kind of transplants. But at the time, it was the initial kind of phase of looking at some of those things as far as the heart muscle and what can be transposed and what cannot be transposed and how that affects the body and those kind of things. So it was really interesting because a big part of my work was evaluating the health of the animals that were going to be used and determining which ones, based on some lab work and different things, were the perfect specimen, so to speak.
That's
So
really,
it's
really
very early stages of my biochemistry research career.
Yeah, at 16 years old, you're doing that. That's awesome that they stuck you in rather than cleaning the back room or washing dishes like I did when I first started. You did something pretty magical. So that's pretty fun. I'll bet that was exciting back then. And obviously, based upon what you're doing now, what you've done in between, it was a good starting ground for you. So then explain, so where'd you go to school and then where'd you get your degree and then what did you start off after your education?
Yeah, so I actually ended up going to the University of Georgia. I think in part because of that. I built relationships up with the biology department and just really loved the atmosphere. It was home for me as well. I grew up in Athens. College down the road from home is always nice.
Yeah, that's a heck of a lot
And
easier.
so I got a scholarship, and in college, I actually started doing biology tutoring, and I was a teaching assistant for the biology lab by my sophomore year. I had a lot of opportunities where I was doing things outside of someone usually at my age. And I feel like it was in part just because I just had this super curiosity for these
Right.
things. I then went from there. I graduated from the University of Georgia with a degree in biochemistry, went to medical school. And so biochemistry is probably the one course in medical school most people try to run away from. I loved it. I've always
Did you?
loved it. And so my very first test in medical school in biochemistry, I finished it, I think, in 20 minutes or so, which is supposed to be like an hour and a half test.
Wow.
The professor graded it on the spot because he was like, what is this girl doing? And I passed it, of course, because I love it. And so he offered me a job. So
Nice.
so that was my second biochemistry research career. Again, using live animals. That was the theme of my life. It was always with live specimens. And it was always this care of the live specimens and always having to do in some part related to helping people heal faster based on information we can get from these experiences. And so, yeah, that was my initial stages into research and falling in love with biochemistry.
Yeah, that's really neat. And now, obviously, you've transitioned. You're doing some really neat things. You've written some books, and so now jump and give us like the latest. What are you doing now? What do you really find passionate now?
Yeah, when I burned out, now it's been probably 10 plus years ago, but actually longer than that. My kids were toddlers and they're in college. So when I initially burned out, I became my own research project because I really got to a place where I knew that conventional medicine hadn't taught me what was needed to be sustainable in the career. It gave me a lot of great information about treating patients, but not how to actually care for myself and remain in the profession. So that was the research project I took on, and I was the live specimen. So I had an opportunity to just start doing a deep dive into, I am exhausted. What is it? And so I did all the lab work, all the tests, checking all the things for myself. There was absolutely nothing medically wrong with me. I was in my 20s, so nothing medically wrong with me, but I was exhausted and I knew it wasn't in my head. So I started asking different questions. And one of the main questions was, what kind of tired am I? And it took me down this sequence of events that started me looking at different ways we can become fatigued and different ways we can restore from fatigue in those areas. And that's what developed into the 7 types of rest framework that I'm known for, that I talk about in my book, Sacred Rest, and that has really become a foundation of our business, Restorisis.
That's exciting. Obviously, I would love to dig into those 7, if you don't mind. Just what are the 7? Can you summarize it, and then we can dig into some of those guys? I just find this fascinating in the respect that you became your own specimen. And I think that if you go back and look at the medical profession now, that is a really big problem in respect that people are just burnt out, right? It's all about volume with patient after patient. And that causes all sorts of issues. I talk a lot about the ones like just, hey, we need to back up and look at the body as a whole, not just my elbow that I've got a problem with, but hey, what's causing that elbow problem? Maybe it's not just inflammation in my elbow. Maybe it's coming from somewhere else. And unfortunately, the orthopedic surgeon's going to be locked in on that little problem and not maybe the problem that's causing the main results. But I just find it fascinating that the poor doctors and nurses and people in the medical field are just so overwhelmed with volume and then just numbers that it's hard for them to sit back and care for themselves, which I think is exciting to see what you're doing and how you're helping people. Let's say, remind me the name. So if you're interested in fatigue and getting help with fatigue management, you have a 7-step protocol. Is that correct?
Yes. And so it's the 7 types of rest, and it includes physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, social, sensory, and creative. So it's a holistic look at the parts of your energy that can be depleted, which then means if something can be depleted, that it has the ability to be restored. And so
Beautiful.
being very intentional at restoring and getting rest or restorative practices in these different areas.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So do you see people when they come to you, do you evaluate them as a whole and then look and say, oh, it's one of these 2 or 3 things that they have an issue with? Or do you start from the beginning and start evaluating? How do you typically go about that?
Yeah, we have a free assessment at restquiz.com where people are able to actually go through a sequence of questions that ask them about some of their different symptoms and ways of being, which then helps us be able to isolate and get a score in each of the 7 areas. And so depending on what someone's score is in each of the 7 types of rest helps guide the decision on what types of rest that they would benefit most from at that time.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So the quiz lets you narrow in on, okay, so now we're going to work on 3 and 5, for example, because of the high scores they had or low scores they had in that particular area. Yeah, that's super fascinating. So now, did you create your own business doing this? Is this your, and then you wrote books, or was it the reverse? Kind of walk through that chronological step. You cared for yourself. You told us that, which is super cool. What got you into, hey, I figured this out. I'm going to go help other people. Did you write the book first, or did you start helping people, then write the book, or how did that go?
Yeah, so after I started noticing just the change in my own life from identifying my personal rest deficits, it was impossible not to take it back to my patients. I'm seeing 100 plus people a week with my medical practice. And so I started just sharing with them some of the things. And really it began with just asking them some of the same questions I'd been asking myself. There was no quiz, there was no book, there was nothing. It was just me asking some of the same questions and then sharing with them what I learned. I then started noticing, as you mentioned, medicine is very regimented. You have 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes with a patient. There's not a lot of time for teaching or education. So between the exam and the nurse's visit and then me sitting with them, I felt rushed every time I was trying to explain this information.
Right.
And so I started creating these little handouts.
Oh, nice.
And I would have these little, there was just it's just a printed out handout just off the printer, not even something fancy like a brochure, just a handout that I had that had some patient information about each of the 7 types of rest. And with that, I started noticing that my nurse kept saying, I need to go make more handouts. And I'm like, we don't have that many people coming in today who don't have it. And she was telling me no, that the patients were taking it to their friends. It's like they were getting benefits and then they were asking for copies or permission to be able to then give it to other people. that's when I started realizing, okay, this is beyond just me and my patients.
Yeah.
They are literally taking it out to our community. And I started looking at writing a book. The book, itself was a process. I'd already written other types of books. I'd never written a book with any type of medical background. I write for the Christian faith. And so I've always written
awesome.
books related to faith, life, and living in Christ and those kind of things. So this was a bit of a stretch. And so it was looking for a different publisher and all of those kind of things. And I've just been amazed. I still include my faith in this book because spiritual rest is a part of it. So I still talk about spirituality from a faith system as well as for those who don't have a faith-based system. But yeah, I was amazed at just the response to the research.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. The respect that you're just handing out free information to help your patients. And then that becomes literally a viral thing where people are sharing it with others. And you're like, hey, this obviously is good information that people need to understand. So you write a book, and then it sounds like you've obviously created a business around that as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the book caught a life of its own. That's the only thing I can say. TED Talks, most people have to apply for them and all kind of things to try to get a TED Talk.
Yeah, it's really hard
the information for the book just caught wind and started getting promoted all over the place. And I joke around, and it's just the reality of it. My family and I were out on a boat having a family time with my in-laws when my phone buzzed, and I was like, oh, why is somebody calling me on the weekend? Thinking it might be a patient. And it was actually the TEDx community in my city next to us, Atlanta, basically saying, hey, we have this upcoming event and we're looking for a featured speaker to be part of this event. And our event is about rest. And we'd like to know if you'd like to come and open up our session for us. So I ended up getting offered the opportunity to be the opening speaker for TEDx Atlanta for that particular year. And that talk now is over, I think 700,000 people have viewed it to date. It really pushed the message out just to an extremely broad number of people. And we started getting interviews and features by places like Fast Company, and we trended on Apple News, and Inc. featured us, and CNN Health invited me. And so there were all of these things that kind of blew up out of that, which led to a lot of invites for speaking and consulting and other things.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love to hear that story because you're right. Most people clamor to try to figure out a way that they can do a TED Talk, right? So for them to come to you, and then for that obviously was a divine thing in respect, you created the book, and they're doing an event near you, and the event is about rest, which is what your book is about. So that's just awesome. How long ago was that? When did you do your TED Talk?
The TED Talk was 2019.
Okay.
And then from 2019, and then 2020 happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so 2020 was another kind of open door, so to speak, because people were exhausted. They were working from home and couldn't understand, why am I so exhausted and I'm in my pajamas all day? So that opened up another window of conversation, and a lot of the media hits came during that time.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. What a beautiful story. I love it. Do you mind? Let's spend a few minutes going through each of the 7 and just to do a short explanation of each of those 7. I think that's going to be fascinating for people. And then I want to come back and go a little bit into the faith portion of the discussion. I don't talk a lot about faith on the show because it's just typically about pain and fatigue. But I am a very faithful person, and I believe that I'm here for a reason. And I believe that God has put you on this earth for a reason. And I think they're actually similarly aligned. So I'd love to talk through a little bit of that faith portion with you. But let's go back to the fatigue thing. Let's hit those 7 items real quick. Give us a quick explanation of each.
Yeah, so at the very core of it is that sleep and rest are not the same thing. Okay. I think we use the two terms interchangeably, incorrectly. And in doing so, we lump all of our restorative practices into cessation activities, stopping, where rest is really about pouring back into the places of deficit. So sometimes that is an has an action attached to it. So with physical rest, we divide it up into passive and active. Passive being sleeping and napping. Active being things that improve your circulation, that improve your lymphatic drainage, that improve your muscles and your flexibility. So it's things like leisure walks or massage therapy or using a foam roller or the ergonomics of your workstation and adjusting the height of your screens or the way your body is using your chair and your desk. So all of those things comprise physical rest, things that help your body feel good while you're doing your work. Mental rest is really looking at how well you're able to clear your mind. And so it takes into account things like your ability to concentrate, your level of being able to stay mindful and do meditative type practices. So someone with a mental rest deficit probably is the person who lays down at night and they can't shut their head up. They're thinking all the thoughts. They can't get into deep. Yeah, they're having monkey brain, as we call it. They can't get, they're swinging from thought to thought. They can't get into deeper levels of non-REM sleep simply because their headspace is actually too noisy and too busy. And so mental rest activities can include things like meditation, mindfulness practices, and that can look in many different ways. For some people, they go into mindfulness practices when they do things like cycling or jogging, because if you're jogging, you're thinking about your breathing and your cadence. So you're narrowing your thought process down to very specific things, and it clears your mind. Some people, a brain dump is the easiest way for them to get mental rest. They need to put all those thoughts out on a notepad or something before they go to bed, empty out their brain to be able to go into deeper sleep. Spiritual rest really looks at the core of it, regardless of anyone's faith-based system. Everybody needs spiritual rest because you have a mind, body, and a spirit. And so spiritual rest at the core has to do with purpose, belonging, a sense of giving back to the greater good, being part of something bigger than yourself. So that includes things like the good feeling you get when you do good. So volunteerism. It can include things that are related to spiritual practices as well, church services or prayer and those types of things. But regardless, everyone has this need for belonging and purpose. And so
right. It's innate in our nature, right? As a human being, it's just something that's within us. Even if you don't think you're spiritual, you really do have that inside you. Just might not have nurtured it yet.
Exactly.
Right?
And every person I've ever met understands the good feeling of doing good to others.
Yeah.
So it's that human connection, and there's a pouring into yourself, into your spiritual part of yourself when you do those types of things, when you're giving to others and they really can't do anything for you necessarily. You are just being part of the greater good.
Yeah, it just lifts you up and your spirit up, just knowing that you're able to do that for someone else. Yeah, I love that.
And that's
so
the type
spiritual,
of rest.
what's the next one?
The next one is emotional rest, and that's
Okay.
looking at how well you're able to express your emotions and evaluating if you have any what we call professional emotional labor. In other words, your job or career requires you to blunt your emotions at time and carry the weight of those emotions because it doesn't fit into that professional setting. So, if you're in customer service and someone's yelling at you, you don't get to yell back. You carry the professional emotional labor of being nice even when other people aren't. If you're in healthcare or if you're a police officer or an EMT, horrific things at times, and you don't get to burst into tears just because you saw something horrific. You keep your emotions in check, you do the job. But the reality of that, even with the professional emotional labor that you have signed up for those particular careers, there has to be a time for you to heal that part of yourself and to release those emotions in a way that's healthy and that allows you to process them. And that's what emotional rest does. And then there's social rest, and social rest is looking at the people in your life and how they pull from your social energy. Most of us, the majority of people that we spend time with are negatively pulling from our social energy. They have demands on us. They need things from us. So whether it's your family or your colleagues or coworkers or clients, they're all needing things from you. Who are the people in your life who don't need anything from you? They are the friends you hang out with, the life-giving people that pour back into you, and they don't have demands upon you. Unfortunately, most adults have fewer adult friends now than ever. And that's not a COVID thing. That statistic was even before COVID. It's worse now. But that lets us know the benefit of this social rest and having time when you are enjoying relationships and relationships aren't just pulling away from you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is emotional the last one, or was there one more?
There's two more. And so the
Oh, I'm
final
sorry.
two are
I've lost my
sensory
count.
and creative. And so sensory rest is evaluating the sensory input. So
Okay.
taking into account the light, sounds, and all the things happening where you spend time. So, if your office space is particularly noisy, you might have a sensory overload syndrome symptoms where you feel overly irritated, agitated from all of the sensory input and could benefit from sensory rest, some time of quietness or down tuning some of the lights and things, particularly in your environment. And then creative rest is needed by anybody who uses creative energy. So whether you are a artistic creative or if you are an intellectual creative and that you're using creativity for like diagnosis or planning or managing and all the problem solving, well, however you're using creativity, that's an area that can be depleted as well. And so recognizing that we need to have moments of being poured back into inspiration wise. And so for some people, creative rest is experienced when they're in like nature. So being around the ocean or the mountains gives them that creative spark. For other people, it might be music or theater or dance or any of those other areas that kind of bring that childlike awe and wonder into their life.
Very good. Very good. That I love the whole outline of that, because you're really looking at, like you've said at one point, the mind, body, spirit connection for people and rest. And if they're not getting that between those 7 things, then they're going to be in a state of fatigue. And that's why I started doing so much research into fatigue, is just how many people are suffering from a lack of energy and from fatigue. It's incredible how many people are using stimulants to get through the day. I love my coffee, but I got to the point where I would have to have coffee in the afternoon, and even sometimes in the evening. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. And it was just like, it becomes a habit, and then it just becomes too much, right? If there's better ways that we can understand our energy levels and fatigue, then it's going to help so many people when they can sit back and realize that. So I love that you have so much good information about those 7 items, and let's help people understand that. Then they can start assessing themselves, and looks like they can go to your quiz and get an analysis from your quiz on how they're doing. And then I would just love to give people resources to start helping. We will make sure we have in the show notes too your books and your resources that you have for people, which I think will be super, super fantastic. But I'd love to spend a couple minutes on your faith journey and what you've done what books have you written in the faith field?
Yeah, so Sacred Rest, Recover Your Life, Renew Your Energy, Restore Your Sanity is the book where I give the foundation of the 7 types of rest.
Oh, wow.
And it's the main book. It has a faith kind of title because half the book is all of the science, the research, all of the 7 types of rest type of information. The other half of that book goes through a faith component, because for me, the foundation of this was actually from scripture. And although the majority of the corporations I work at as a consultant, I'm not in there preaching Jesus, right? I'm in there teaching them the 7 types of rest. But the reality of that is where it originated from.
Right.
And so I didn't feel like it was really authentic of me not to mention that within that particular book. So I very openly let people know I divide it up. So if someone doesn't have a faith system, they can still benefit from the books. Stick to the first half and read the second half if you feel like it, but realize it's going to be giving my faith journey as it relates to where this came from, a spiritual concept.
Makes sense.
And then I have lots of other books as well. I have 5 books out in total. There is a continuum book related to rest that I recently released called Being Fully Known, The Joyful Satisfaction of Beholding, Becoming, and Belonging. And it goes deeper into spiritual, emotional, and social rest from a faith concept. Okay. And so it has reflection questions that help people reflect and to get to a place of understanding how their spirituality, their seasons, and purpose all come together.
Nice. That's so fantastic. I love how you're combining that, because I really believe that's why I was put on this earth, is to help people with their faith and their health. And so I'm having a blast doing what I'm doing, learning about pain. That's why I started the I Am Pain Free podcast. Was initially we were selling a product, a skin patch that helped people with pain. And the more research I did on pain relief, it was just phenomenal. So, oh my gosh, after 50% of our seniors have some type of pain, and it was just sad. And so I started digging in. I'm like, how can I help people? So interview people about how they're helping people naturally and faithfully get through pain. And then the evolution of that is now I'm finding just fatigue is that kind of that next big problem. Pain is a big problem, but so is fatigue. Fatigue and energy are and they're related, right? A lot of times they are related. It's like you end up having pain, which leads you to exhaustion and fatigue, and then leads back to pain. And it's just like this circle, right? Health issues, but the fatigue and just trying to find solutions for people in that area are super exciting. We ended up developing a supplement that's got 7 biblical ingredients. So that's why I love your faith journey as well, because what we believe, the mind, body, spirit connection, is so important to do that in addition to, so we have a prayer guide that goes with the product, because we want people to literally use their eyes to read it and their mouth to declare it and their ears to hear themselves say it. And then they use the supplements as well. And it combines both their body and their mind and their spirit as part of the solution. And I'm just having a blast trying to figure out ways that I can just really help people in a dramatic way with their energy. So I love what you're doing, and I love your 7-step approach, and I love the number 7. That's even like you said, it started from scripture, right? Now it makes sense. So just super blessed to meet you, and just so fun. What do you see as the next steps for yourself? What are you planning on doing?
Yeah, right now I'm in the exploration phase with God, I think is where I'm at. None of this is stuff that I ever thought about doing. My mind, I was going to be a physician until the day I hit the grave. That was my thought. That's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. But I just really have been on this kind of adventure with him, starting with the TED Talk and going from there.
Yeah, that blew
this
up.
Bit of an adventure. And so the Workplace Wellbeing Consulting Agency was new. Lots of new contracts and relationships with different organizations that are popping up. And now looking at ways of getting the information out, I think, to more people. Specifically, we're looking at what it looks like to put an app together. We've had lots of interest in an app creation to help people be able to implement the 7 types of rest and have a system of kind of monitoring themselves. And then actually supplementation, because I find that I'm a traditional medicine doctor. In other words, I went to regular medical school and regular residency in the U.S., and we're taught to give pills. That's the reality of it. We're taught to give pills.
Yeah.
Above and beyond education.
Yeah.
And just really trying to change that to some degree, because there's lots of great changes that people can make in their lifestyle, from the things they eat to the things they drink to how much water they're getting to the supplements that they're taking. A lot of things that are way healthier for their body and would make them feel like they're living a John 10:10 life just because of some of these changes. Yeah. So I have no desire to create supplements. That's not, right. I have a biochemistry background, but I'm not a pharmacist. So I have no desire to go creating supplements, but I'm always looking for things that will help people. So I love what you shared about some of the things that you're creating, because I feel like declaring the word out of your own mouth, and the word of God says that it is health to your body. I think that's a medicine in itself as well, combined with supplements and nutrition.
Yeah, super, super true. And it's like the supplement we've created is all herbs and superfoods from the Bible. Like it literally is. It gives you the nutrients you need for the day, because that's what a lot of people are just lacking nutrients, like you mentioned. They're lacking water, right? So we have this guidebook that says it's a fatigue to vitality system. It takes them, what should you do in the morning? What should you do in the afternoon? What should you do in the evening? And it walks them through the things they need to do in addition to using our supplement. But guess what? You need to have water. You need to have rest, like you were saying. So we're trying to, exactly. You have to do those things in order for you to have the healthy body and have the energy that God gave us this incredible body. And it's so amazing that if we can give it the right things that, guess what? It heals itself. And so I love the fact that you were trained in traditional medicine and you are a physician and you've helped lots and lots of people, but you still have the understanding that God made our bodies in an incredible way and that there's other things that you can do, the mind, body, spirit, outside of just the pills that they teach you in your medical school. So I love that you're investigating those and helping people just from a holistic perspective, which is just really fascinating. So I'm sure, thank you for being the person you are. Thank you for being on the show too. It's just, I think you're opened a lot of people's eyes up to how incredible those 7 aspects are to their rest and their well-being. And when they can start helping themselves, and we'll give all the resources that you've got available, we'll make sure people can have access to. And we'll even try to find your TED Talk so we can link to your TED Talk, and we'll try to get a few more views of that thing. So just what a fascinating story you have. And just thank you for being on the show.
It's my pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, with that, we're going to sign off from the I Am Pain Free podcast and just welcome you to another episode soon. God bless. As many of you know, my focus at the I Am Pain Free podcast is help as many people get pain free as possible. And we strive to use all natural and alternative therapies to accomplish that goal. Well, today I'm thrilled to introduce to you a revolutionary product that aligns perfectly with our mission of natural health and well-being. It's called Exodus by Exodus Strong. At Exodus Strong, their mission is to help you break free from the grip of big pharma and embrace natural solutions that promote vibrant health. With a foundation rooted in the wisdom of the Bible, the all-natural supplement harnesses the power of 7 key ingredients specifically mentioned in the scriptures. The flagship product Exodus is designed to be transformational, providing benefits such as energy enhancement, stress relief, blood sugar stabilization, pain relief, and anti-inflammation. So join the movement, right, to help them get 1 million new people to read the Bible every day and transform their health naturally. When you purchase Exodus, use code IAPF at checkout to receive a special free gift with your order. It's time to exit the old you and step into a new chapter of vitality and well-being. To get there, you go to exodusstrong.com. So it's Exodus, EXODUS-STRONG.com. And check out and use that IAPF for the I Am Pain Free podcast. And then you'll experience the benefits of the Exodus mineral blend. This mineral blend is amazing. It's got the molecular hydrogen generating formula that's backed by hundreds of scientific studies. So begin your journey feeling great and looking great. Don't miss the opportunity to take control of your health with the all-natural way. So go check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Elitist media deceives, but Faith and Freedom TV amplifies truth. Our world-leading platform delivers news, teachings, worship, movies, and music rooted in biblical values and constitutional patriotism, inspiring faith and liberty. We inspire, equip, and amplify Christian patriots to share powerful stories of faith, family, and freedom. With live events, thousands of on-demand videos, and access on Roku, FireTV, Apple TV, Android, and iOS, we're transforming culture globally for God and country. New content is coming to ignite faith. Join our mission to counter deception. Visit faithandfreedom.tv and download the Faith and Freedom TV app today. Economic chaos is shaking the markets. Trade tensions, government overreach, and global uncertainty are driving volatility to historic highs. But in times of crisis, gold and silver shine as safe haven assets just as they have for centuries. Right now, you have a rare opportunity to protect your wealth with Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. Call 720-605-3900 or visit kepm.com/B2T to learn how to reposition your retirement into low-cost 100% liquid gold and silver bullion. No high commission coins, no overpriced collectibles. KEPM educates you, charges no commission when you sell, and keeps your investment secure. Beware of firms pushing rare coins with sky-high markups. Stick with bullion for maximum liquidity and value. Seize this moment to thrive in uncertain times. Call Kirk Elliott Precious Metals at 720-605-3900 or go to kepm.com/B2T today. Real assets, real security, real future. The quantum effect wipes out pain and allergy symptoms in less than 30 seconds with 0 drugs. Pastor Dave and hundreds of others have experienced the quantum effect for themselves. It's backed by scientific research and rigorous lab testing. Quantum is simply about 2 things. 1, intentions, as a man thinketh so he is, and 2, renewing your mind with the Word of God. Only QE Strong encodes key intentions and Bible verses about healing onto the small patch. You simply place it on your body each day, and with a bonus prayer guide, read out loud a positive intention and 1 or 2 Bible verses about healing each day. The patch provides the touch, and the prayer guide uses your sight, speech, and hearing to relieve pain and allergy symptoms with the senses God gave you. It even works for people who have suffered decades of chronic symptoms. Are you ready to experience the quantum effect?
Go to QEstrong.com and use code FAITH at...
Terrell Owens here. On the field, I brought energy every single game. But let's be real. Sometimes the fatigue in the brain can make you feel like you're running on fumes. That's where Exodus Strong and their Fatigue to Fire playbook come into play. It's a complete 40-day blueprint with a checklist, an in-depth ebook, plus daily prayer and Bible study guides to rebuild your body, mind, and spirit. Don't wait. Get in the game. To truly get in the game, the one that matters most, you need strength built on a divine foundation, the energy God intended for you. Exodus Strong unites 7 sacred ingredients from Scripture, each chosen for its divine purpose with breakthrough science that unlocks their power. This is more than a supplement. It's a daily ritual to honor your body and restore the vitality God intended for you. No artificial stimulants, just His perfect design, activated. Join the movement of 1 million believers reclaiming their God-given strength. Your journey begins today. Visit toexodus.com to start your Fatigue to Fire transformation.